At a recent conference, I found myself discussing how other attendees gather information from their closing parties. This information is called different things by different agencies. Sometimes it's a welcome email or letter. Sometimes it's a buyer info sheet, a buyer onboarding form, or a buyer questionnaire, among others. The data points required are those that may or may not be in the contract, but are necessary for the closing officer to smooth the closing process. This information request might ask things like marital status or vesting, the post-close address, best form of communication during closing, and whether this will be an in-person or remote closing. Please note in the following information, anywhere I say buyer, you could replace that with seller, or realtor, or vendor, or partner, or client. For simplicity, I'll just talk about the buyer for now. My name is Pete Bishop, and I'm the founder of MessageLeap and the developer of the InfoQuery Connector for Resware. The old school way of gathering that information, the buyer information for closing, was to pick up the phone, call, and ask. But who answers the phone anymore if they don't recognize the number? A more convenient way is to send an email with a list of questions, but that depends on the home buyer opening the email and filling it in completely. Also, most email services are insecure and not a good way to send PII or personally identifiable information. Lately, there are some great services that will host a bot or an agent to accept the information in a more secure way. If you're using one of these services and you like it and you can afford it, that's great. Keep using it. If you'd like to use something that you have total control over and don't want to purchase yet another subscription, then you may already own the solution. Microsoft Forms is an app that is part of the Microsoft 365 suite of Office apps. It allows you to build custom forms for questionnaires or surveys. The first reason I would use Microsoft Forms is that I already use Microsoft 365 products, so I don't need another subscription for Forms. Second, it's hosted in my Microsoft tenant, meaning I can control its security and keep possession of all the data. Finally, Microsoft Forms is integrated with Microsoft's Power Automate. Power Automate is also available in the Microsoft 365 suite of apps. It allows users to build no-code and low-code automations. In this example, the automation will be triggered when the form is completed. Microsoft Forms will automatically collect responses in an Excel spreadsheet, but we really need the response data to be in Resware in the file where it belongs. For that, we need Power Automate to have a connection to Resware. The InfoQuery Connector for Resware is a certified connector available right in Power Automate. The InfoQuery Connector allows you to securely send Microsoft Forms data through Power Automate through a workflow to your Resware file. The InfoQuery Resware Connector uses your Resware API URL and credentials. So again, you have ultimate control over all of your data. The sequence of the flow is, first, you build the buyer information sheet in Microsoft Forms with as many questions or data points as you want to receive. You customize the look and the feel to match your brand. From Resware, you send a link to that Microsoft form to your buyer, preferably by text using MessageLeap. The buyer clicks the link, completes the form, and then clicks Submit. Microsoft Forms triggers Power Automate. Power Automate formats the response from the buyer, and then the InfoQuery Connector for Resware creates the note in the Resware file. You could build one Microsoft form and reuse for every buyer and another for every seller and any other partner that you interact with. If you want to go crazy with it, you could onboard clients, new employees, vendors, or anyone else with Microsoft Forms and have that data automatically populate in the appropriate system. So for partners, you might populate that in your TPS or into TPS partner instances. clients you might populate in your CRM automatically. You could populate new employees in your HR management or payroll systems. Microsoft Forms can be sent completely blank and to be filled in by the recipient. In this case, we're going to pre-fill one of the answers. We'll copy the file number from Resware, paste it into the form by clicking Get Pre-Filled URL. It gives us the opportunity to paste our first answer in. We click Next, Next, and then Next, just to get to the end of the form, and we have this button for Get Pre-Filled Link. This gives us a URL, so we click Copy Link. This puts the URL onto our clipboard. We're going to send it the link by MessageLeap this time, so we're going to send it by business text. When our action email template pops up, we replace that line with our URL and click Send. This goes out to the MessageLeap service. It gets converted into a text message and arrives on the buyer's mobile device. On the mobile device, we see the text received with a link. They click on the link. It opens up the Microsoft form in the mobile version. We see the file reference that's pre-filled. And now we have a text field for them to enter their names as they want them to appear on the deed. We can use radio buttons to allow them to choose their vesting or marital status. And then we have some shorter text boxes that allows them to enter in their street address, city, and then state. We have some pre-filled choices so they can just choose. And then integers only allowed for the zip code. We then have some radio buttons for them to accept essentially the terms of working with you, and then typing in a digital signature. When they click submit, that form response goes back to your Microsoft tenant. The submission of that response kicks off a workflow in Power Automate. So we see that trigger at the top. Next, we're going to take a look at the details from the response. If we click on output, we can see all the answers to the questions that our buyer sent in. It's not very readable, so let's reformat that a little. Our end result will be a note in Resware, so we want it to be a nice, concise note body. So we add a compose action, and we take all those data points and we set them up with headers so that we can easily read that when it's a Resware note. Now, we pre-filled our questionnaire with the file number, so that's included as part of the submission. But what we need is the file ID. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to find our file using that file number. So we're going to use the InfoQuery Connector for Resware. We submit the file number and we get that record from the file main table, which contains a lot of data, including the file ID. So now we can pass that file ID on to the next InfoQuery Resware Connector action, which is add note to a file in Resware. So we pass in the file ID, we add a subject, and then we add in that body that we formatted above. We send that into the Resware server and we get a response which tells us the note ID for the note we just created. If we go look in the file, we can clearly see that there is a note now on the file. If we open it up, it'll look suspiciously like that formatted paragraph that we created earlier in the workflow. And then if we go and we look, we'll see that that note ID matches the note ID that we received as a response. The purpose of this demo was to show you one possible way you could use Microsoft Forms to get data into a specific Resware file in an automated way. There are other ways to make this even better, such as populating specific fields with the responses, such as the vesting or the buyer on the buyer or seller. You could also add the response data as a document The possibilities are endless. If you'd like to learn more about using these tools, the first link on the screen is qualia.com/Resware. I'm probably preaching to the choir here. If you're watching this video, you probably already use Resware, but it's a great workflow automation tool for title production. If you'd like to learn more about MessageLeap, go to MessageLeap.com. MessageLeap is a two-way business texting solution. It's integrated with Resware. You can send and receive text messages directly from your file. If you click on the QR code, then it will take you to scheduling a demo. I can show you how it works. To learn more about the InfoQuery Connector for Resware, go to connector.infoquery.pro. Use the QR code to go to that page. You can sign up for a free trial, get an API key, and start using your Resware API right away. And then if you want to learn more about Microsoft Forms or Power Automate, go to learn.microsoft.com. Thanks for listening, and I hope you build something cool. Thanks.